don't know what we would do without Bree. She is our like technical person. God bless her. Okay, I need to share my screen. And screen. Which one do I choose so I can do my PowerPoint and the share, not screen? Yeah.
Get it?
No, because screen one's that, screen two's that.
No, screen one is your screen up here.
Okay,
That'd be everything.
okay. All right.
Because you only have
Bree.
one screen.
All right. So, good morning, everybody. For the recording purposes, we're here for the 2024 fiscal year and closeout training. Before we get started, I know Missy had a couple of things she wanted to say. So I'll bring her up here and let her do it.
I just wanted to remind everyone that if you haven't signed your user forms and returned them to us, it's a list of all your users in USAS, USPS, and inventory. If you have it, our security auditors are here right now and they are reviewing them. So if you haven't returned those to us, please review them. You can make notes on them if you want, but sign each one and return them to us. If you want to make notes that you need somebody deleted, that's fine, but we need you to fill out a deletion form. And that form can be found in our knowledge book, but I think I also sent it out, included in the email reminder that the deletion form was attached. And I know if you have a bunch of deletions, you have to keep going back into the form and it's a little bit of a pain, but we're working on having it either reset so the form comes right back up and you can just keep typing, or we're seeing if maybe we can add multiple lines to the deletion form so you can type multiple users you might want to delete. However, I'm going to start sending an email out every quarter to remind people that if you have someone that's left, you want to fill out that deletion form as soon as they leave. You don't want to leave that access open to the applications. I know it's one thing that everybody seems to forget, but if you can try and remember when someone leaves to fill out the deletion form, it's very important. That's why I'm going to send out a little quarterly reminder. Have you had anyone leave? Please remember to complete that deletion form, because you don't want them to have access to something they shouldn't have access to after they're gone. So just a little reminder on that.
Okay. Any questions on what she just went over? Okay. Pardon me? It's on the recording. All right. Before I get started too, I wanted to ask if everybody had received, we were sending out tips and emails to all of you to help you start preparing for your fiscal year closeout for payroll. And my question to you is, did you find it helpful?
Yes.
Okay. I just figured instead of waiting till June 7th to start doing some of these things, it puts the pressure on you. So if we could start doing them a little at a time leading up to it, hopefully it would help you. So with that in mind, we're thinking about sending out a survey to you, all of our users. We would like to find out what kind of trainings you might be interested in. I mean, obviously there's new payroll, new budgetary, some inventory. What else have we done? The EMIS payroll.
Yep.
What would you like to see? Okay, so because one of the other things we were thinking about is maybe a round table for payroll and a round table for budgetary once a quarter. But it would be like it would probably be a Zoom, not a long thing. If you have something you want to go over, hey, I'm having problems. It's mid-year contracts. It's October. You know, what kind of things do you want to see in training? So watch for that. It probably won't come out until July after we're done with this crazy time of the year, but watch for it. It will be coming out. So with that said, we'll go ahead and get started on our training here. All right, so there we go. So first thing on page 2, it's important to make sure you follow the checklist that is provided for you. This way you don't miss steps that are very important, certain reports that need to be ran before you close the month of June. Because when you try to close it in July, do a report in July, we'll say, wage obligation or, wage and, benefit obligation. I had a brain freeze, sorry. Those won't look the same in July as it does at June 30th. So things like that, you want to make sure you follow that checklist, okay? You can find a copy of that checklist. Obviously, it was on the email that was sent to you on Wednesday, but it's also in our knowledge book, Fiscal Art Knowledge Book, topic 4.1. Okay, another great tool is the SSDT documentation. It's wonderful. I mean, we refer to it a lot. And I have put a hyperlink on there for the SSDT's manual. Okay, so a lot of these I've already mentioned to you, like I said, in the tips that I sent out over the past couple weeks. Life insurance premiums. Do you have anybody who's retiring that has board paid life insurance over $50,000? You want to verify your STRS configuration, make sure it's 0. There's nothing in there. The box is unchecked that you're not in STRS advanced mode. Okay. The other thing, run STRS advanced reports right now. You can start running those to see if you can balance. It's also a good way to make sure people have, all your employees have, especially teachers, that they have the days worked equal the days in their calendar. Okay. EMA staff reporting. This is huge. It helps you in the long run. You want to see anybody, EMA staff reporting for year end, new fiscal year. Okay. That's just if someone's retired, resigned in this fiscal year, the last physical work day was in this fiscal year. You want to put a separation date and reason on all their position screens with a status of C. Because then when the new reporting period opens for fiscal year 2025, you just go in and uncheck reportable to EMIS. It's that simple. Ways to look for that is obviously board minutes that maybe the treasurer can provide, or I know the district I came from, the superintendent secretary knew who was resigning, who was retiring. Okay, if you haven't already, create your new job calendars. I think most of you have probably done all that because you're working on your contracts. New contracts for July 1st start dates. If you have them in, which I'm sure a lot of you do have those in, activate them now. It hurts nothing to activate them, because by activating them now, it's picking up the work days that may cross on that last pay of the fiscal year 2024 contract with the 2025 contract. Does that make sense? Okay. If you haven't already, create your fiscal year 2025 posting periods. You can do that. Some people do them one at a time as they need them. It's very simple to go in and create all of them right now. It takes less than 5 minutes. I know that. So you might want to go do that. And then last but not least, our favorite SCRS pay cycles. You want to log into the eSERS website and get those set up. Any questions? Okay, so we're going to start with the life insurance. Okay, again, these are board paid life insurance policies for anything over $50,000. So you have a superintendent that you pay $200,000 policy for. So you would have to go in and figure out, and there's instructions here on how to do it, how much per month, per thousand that they would have to go on their pays. You want it on a payroll if at all possible. So much easier. Okay. There's instructions in our knowledge book, topic 5.1. You can also go to the IRS publication 15B, pages 13 through 15. That just shows you the IRS publication, how to calculate that amount of money that you're going to use for the life insurance premium, NC1 payment. There's also a link down here. The knowledge book, it also has that publication in there, but here's a web link, hyperlink if you want to use that. Okay, so if you have somebody who qualifies for this, that's retiring or leaving by the end of June 30th, you could go into Payroll Future and you will find the employee, their main job, and you could put in the pay, will put in the pay type life insurance premium, the unit is 1, and the rate is what the number you came up with the calculation, okay? Be careful that that isn't their daily rate or hourly rate that's in there. You have to make sure you change that out. You have to make sure that you uncheck the box to apply to retirement because it doesn't. If that box is checked and you try to save, it will give you an error. So in payroll current, it's basically the same thing. The pay type is life insurance unit 1. The rate is how much the number you came up with the calculation. It is again not for retirement. It's not eligible for retirement. One thing I want to bring up about this is you want to be careful if you'll run into problems, I guess is what I'm trying to say. If it's someone, which 99.9% of the time, they're going to be stretch pay. So when you initiate your payroll, they're going to pull in anyway. So you're just going to modify their entry in current. You're not going to create a new one because you already have them in there. Okay. So life insurance premiums, no federal, state, OSDI, retirement, or taxes are withheld from this amount. It will, however, increase the total and applicable wage on those payroll items. Okay. Medicare and FICA, if applicable, are withheld on this payment. City is based on your payroll item configuration. You would have to go to your payroll item configuration for that employee, and under options, there's the tax non-cash earnings box. If this is checked, then you should see tax withheld on the NC1. So life insurance premiums that were not posted during a payroll. The life insurance payment will have to be entered as an adjustment. And that adjustment, hold on one second. I don't know how to get rid of that. The adjustment only is going to happen on the 001 federal payroll item. By doing that adjustment, it will increase the total and applicable wages on state, federal, city, Medicare, all the applicable taxes. No manual adjustments need to be made. So you don't need to go into state, go into city, go into any of those. By doing the life insurance pay type, it will automatically update all that. So if Medicare, you have to collect Medicare on this, regardless of its employee, employer together, like a normal person, or the higher ups that have the pickup. You have to do the Medicare. Okay. So it's up to you if it's employee and employer paid if you're going to recover that from the employee, since it's outside of a payroll. Okay. So this is what the adjustment looks like. You'd go into core adjustment, click create, find the employee, federal type record. Life insurance is your pay type. That's very important. The date must be within June. The amount, that's the amount of how much the calculation you came up with using the formula that's it's on our checklist too. I think it starts on page 7. You can put a description there. We recommend it, and we leave all the boxes checked. So employee paid, you would figure out 1.45% of that amount. In this case, it's $1.45 because it was $100. Same employee, $692 amount withheld. That's the employee's portion for $1.45. On the board, for the board share, $692, board's amount of payroll item, $1.45. Now here's where it gets sticky. This is new, so pay attention. You actually are supposed to be paying Medicare on the Medicare pickup because it's a benefit. Okay. So here's how you have to do it. So you're going to use this formula. insurance cost we calculated is $100. So $100 divided by 98.55% equals $101.47. That is your applicable gross for that. Okay. Now, you take that amount and you multiply it by 0.29, which is 2.9%, which is 1.45 times 2. You can do it by 0.145 because you're going to break it out by employer paid and pickup amount. So it's up to you, but this is the way it was shown to us, trained to us, so to speak, taught to us. So this is for the whole amount. So it's $2.94 for the pickup. Now you need to take that amount and divide it by 2, which is $1.47. So this is the amount that's going to be used on the 692 record twice. Once you're going to do it on the board amount of payroll, which is your regular amount that any employer paid always is going to say board amount of payroll. Okay. Then the second one for $1.47 is the board's pickup amount of that. So it's pickup. So the system recalculates differently in that. Is there any question on that? Okay. Because it is a pickup amount, that is why it needs to be increased. So you will also need to do an adjustment to the Medicare applicable gross. Okay, since you already did the 001 federal for $100, you've already increased the applicable gross for Medicare by $100. But because it's a benefit and there's more, you have to go in and make the adjustment for the difference. So the applicable gross on $100 technically is 101.47. By doing the adjustment on the 001, you've already increased it by $100. So now you need to do adjustment for the difference, which is $1.47. Okay. Any questions? Because that's a little hard. Not hard, but it's different. So to recap, $1.47 is going to be the board share amount, which is the regular employer amount. The $1.47 for the board's amount of the pickup will be increased, and the amount for the applicable gross will be increased. And here's where it lists how it affects your different reports. The W-2, by doing the board pickup, it will update the pickup amount, and it will also show on the employee's W-2. On the board paid amount, it will be on the quarter report, the 941. And then the applicable gross will show on the W-2 taxable gross for Medicare. Okay. So life insurance amounts are not included in the total gross that's charged to USAS. So that amount that you post to USAS that you would transfer over, that's not part of it because it's not actual cash that you're paying this person. You're just trying to get them, get it in their wages, and you're trying to get the taxes that they would owe on it, which comes out of their pay. So the reports that provide special totals for their balancing on your pay report, obviously you will see an NC1 payment for the individual. At the bottom where it breaks down the pay types, regular, accrued, miscellaneous, there's one for NC1 payments to help you balance. And then on your quarter reports, it will be included in the totals summary. Okay, let's see if I want to show you what that looks like. If I can. Okay. I need to share. This isn't sharing. Give me one quick second here. So I'm trying to get. Go ahead. You want to take that?
Sorry.
That's okay. I told you Bree's our tech guru, so I apologize.
Where's your meeting?
Go ahead here and hit my PowerPoint again and close that out. It might be, that's the problem. Yeah.
Screen sharing is stopped.
Okay.
No, we want to share. It's great.
Okay, there you go. All right, there, I saw a couple chats there. Let me,
saying that they, you guys had sort of.
awesome, awesome. Okay. So the thing I wanted to share with you, just there's a couple screenshots I have. The first one, it just shows that, as I said, on your pay report, this is what it would look like for, similar to, for your life insurance. This is a copy of our payroll when we got our shirts, they're NC3 payments, but it still would say NC1 for you, non-cash benefits, and over to the side, it will show the total. On the individual pay report, it will be listed for you, so you could see the NC payment. And then when you go to it also shows up in your pay summary report. That's one of the reports that are on your grid, your payroll when you do it. So if you scroll, it's at the individual person. Okay, let me take it over a little further, and it would be listed here under other. And then at the bottom, the different wages are shown, and there's other pay, and that's where you would see that. On your quarter report, there's a special line for non-cash earnings. That's on your quarter report. Okay. Just thought those would help a little. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. So those are examples. So if you want to go and see if you've done any NC1 payments through adjustments, you can go to your adjustments grid, core adjustments, filter by the type of life, and the code 001 for federal, and you'll be able to see what you pay. You might want to do the date range to 01/01/2024 on, which would be equal to or greater than sign before it. And then you can create it in Excel and do a total, an auto sum on it, so you can balance. And here is a screenshot of what that would look like. The adjustment type is life. The transaction date equal or greater to 01/01/2024. So, any questions on that new portion? Okay. All right. That's it for life insurance. Now we're going to go to STRS. So I said this was another email we sent out to, I went in and I checked all our districts, and there were a couple of districts that still had numbers here. And I reached out to them to let them know, but I suggest you still go into here and check, because if you were running any of your reports, the button for the generate submission is right below the report button. So if you slid a little bit and you clicked on it, you just ran the STRS submission. It's not a big deal. We can take you out. I think the treasurer now has the option to take you out too, of that. So you would need to go make sure that there's nothing in there. So that is system configuration, STRS advanced configuration. All right. Something new. Well, you can also see at the core organization, you just can't modify those fields from core organization. You can see this box. Something new that the SSDT implemented in one of their releases. If there are any totals showing there as of December 31st, and then when you switch posting periods, make January current, these will be wiped out. So if you didn't balance, the numbers are gone. So just letting you know that's something they changed. Okay, so your STRS advance, the following reports, all the reports can be executed now for balancing purposes. Just be careful again not to generate that submission file. So the advanced positions, everybody who's worked their whole contract, earned all their money, has money left to be paid in accrued wages. They have pays paid left, they have money in accrued wages, and they've earned everything. So that's how they'll appear on the advanced report. This will also include retired, rehired. Okay, here is a hyperlink at the bottom to help for advanced balancing. This is also in the SSDT's documentation on how to do that. Yes, we have a question.
Page 17.
Okay.
Under system configuration.
Uh-huh.
So that box is not supposed to be checked?
No. It should not be checked. Being the treasurer, are you able to uncheck that box? Okay. So as long as, the only thing, the caveat to that is you can uncheck that box. But are you 100% sure your STRS advance was correct last summer? Okay, that's all I need to know. You know, if there's an issue that it's not correct, don't just arbitrarily uncheck that box. You need to look into why is this not balanced? And it could be something as simple, you know, you had to dock somebody, you paid someone off early, so it adjusted it by, even if it's a couple pennies, you know what I mean? It can mess with it. Just make sure you verify that you are correct before you uncheck that. Thanks for that question. Appreciate that. Okay. Oh, next one. 19. So your non-advanced position report are for STRS employees that will not have worked their whole contract by June 30th. So they will not have advanced money. Okay, sometimes what we're finding is, and this was part of one of our tips that we sent out, that your teacher technically did work the whole year. However, you may not have activated their contract in enough time, or you didn't use incorrect dates. It could be anything. We all make mistakes. So that would show that they didn't earn all their money yet, so they won't be on the advance. So there is a way to fix that, and we'll go over that. So your advanced fiscal year to date report is a report that lists every employee that has contributed to STRS in this calendar year. Doesn't mean they're going to be on advance, doesn't mean they're going to be on the non-advance. It could be subs. It can, anybody who was paid that had retirement, the STRS retirement withheld from their pays. And then the service days will be determined by counting the days on the employer's job calendar plus attendance. So your subs would be attendance, not a job calendar. Okay. And the dock days use the activity date, not the pay date stamp when it's looking at those days. Okay. Job calendars. How many of you already have all your job calendars set up? By this time you probably would, because I think, is it like March, somewhere in that area is when they approve the job calendars, like when school will start the holiday schedule?
February.
Yours is February. Okay. So you can work on those as soon as you get those, as long as the treasurer provides you with that information. Okay. And I'm just jazzing him. Okay. So I'm not going to go into deep detail about the job calendars. For those of you who may be a little new to it, you could create one job calendar and then copy. So I know that you're fairly new, Tracy, to doing this. Are you familiar with the copy? Then you're good. Okay, so you can copy those. Makes your life a lot easier. The new job calendar, sure.
So does everybody have their job calendars board approved? Because I've never done that.
Does everybody, it's not so much that it's board approved the job calendars, it's knowing what the first day of school is, what holidays,
Oh.
you know, like all that stuff has been approved.
School calendar.
Yeah, the school calendar, thank,
Not just-
I
okay.
missed that word, so the school calendar for you to build your job calendar off of. I apologize for that, sorry. Okay, so clear any long-term illness data from the prior fiscal year if you missed it last year in August. Okay, after that staff course collection closed. So there's a way to go in and double check before you enter any, if you have done, if you've cleared it or not. So you're going to go, and I'm going to switch forward and come back. You're going to go to the mass chain, the employee grid. You're going to filter by long-term illness greater than 0. And then that will list anybody who may show. If you don't have anybody, it's going to be blank. You're good to go. If you have anybody, you can either, if it's one person, you can manually go in and clear it out if you want. But if you have several, you can use the mass change option and it will clear everybody's out for you. Okay. So those are just the instructions step by step on how to do it. So now you can enter your long-term illness for any of your employees that qualify, which is 15 days or greater. So we did find this out, that your long-term illness does not include vacation or holidays. So if they took a vacation day while they were off in the middle, that broke it up. Okay. So if they're gonna use vacation, have them use it either at the beginning or the end. So you can, I would suggest the beginning, because if they're gonna be out long-term and they run out of vacation, sick, personal, and they're still off and you're docking them, it's gonna break that up. So keep that in mind. And any holiday, sure,
I do have a quick question.
Sure.
So we had a lot of maternity leaves this year, and they're around Christmas.
okay.
So if they took 5 days before Christmas break, and then they were off because of Christmas break, and then they're still on maternity leave for another 10 or 15 days. Those first 5 days don't get counted, or they do?
It depends on their job calendar. If I'm correct, teachers don't have holidays
They don't
on
have
theirs.
holidays, so the whole time the staff's out, they don't get.
Yeah, so it's not considered a work day or a holiday. It doesn't, it would still be long-term is what I'm trying to say. It would affect, if it were you, Michelle, you have holidays,
Yeah.
okay? And if you were off before and after, you wouldn't count those holidays as part of your time being off. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
that makes sense. I just wasn't sure if it was like a teacher or like, something like that where they had
Right,
those are work days, but yet they were off before and then came back, like we're still off after.
right. It's 15 consecutive work
work
days, okay? And then we found that information, in the EMIS manual 3.3, page 5. Okay. So if you have an employee, and this was another ticket that we received and we looked into, if you have an employee with multiple long-term illnesses, you actually would add those together. So for example, you have a member who's off for 16 consecutive days in October and then 19 in February. You would enter 35 days in the long-term illness, okay? That again, we found that in the EMIS manual 3.3, page 4. That EMIS manual comes in handy. The chapter 3 is basically for the payroll side. There's a CI and a CK, which is your employee position and compensation records. Okay. Okay, so this is one of the other tips I sent to you for EMIS reporting. Be proactive. Now's a good time to start entering separation dates and reasons. The school year's over. So if you know teachers retiring or resigning, an aide's leaving, cook, bus driver, anybody, now would be a good time to enter that information. But it's very important. This is where there's a lot of confusion. The separation date is the last day they physically work. So a teacher whose last day may have been May 31st, but they're getting paid out through the summer, their separation date's May 31st. The accrued wage is being paid out has no bearing on that, okay? Because they technically earned it in that fiscal year of 24. It's just being spread out for them. So keep that in mind. And I'll give you another little thing on that. That's actually the same date you should be using as their termination date, as their stop date, like the last day worked. Real important one is the calendar stop date on the compensations. Last day physically worked. Okay? Sure.
Can all get put in now, even though they're getting, as long as they don't put a stop date of 5/31 on their compensation.
Correct. As long as their compensation record doesn't have that 5/31. That one, the date has to fall within the pay period of the last pay. Okay, but what's important is about that, and this is where the calendar stop date comes in, is if their last pay, their compensation period, if there's work days on that calendar that fall within the same, as long as you have a calendar stop date, it will not give them earnings. Okay, not that the system would pay them more than their contract, but that way the earnings are correct, okay? So once this year closes, the fiscal year staff course and collection closes, and that's something you need to be in contact with, communication with your EMIS coordinator. Because what can happen, it closes on August 7th, but your district could possibly file an appeal. If they file an appeal, you can't change anything until that appeals, the period's closed, okay? So always keep in contact with your EMIS coordinator before you change anything. But once it's closed and you get the okay from your EMIS coordinator, you can go in and unflag the position, the compensation, and the employee record as reportable to EMIS. You can turn them off. because you gave a separation date and reason in the final reporting period. Okay? Any questions about that?
Yes.
Okay, what's your
I
question?
just want to make sure. Okay, so right or wrong, our teachers were scheduled to work 3 days into June,
Okay,
and it was offered to them so they could retire at the end of May, but be paid out their whole contract to make up hours in May for those 3 days in June.
okay.
So I just want to make sure that we have our dates in correct,
The last day would be May 31st.
even though we're paying them through June 5th.
Well, but the last day they walk in that building and work is the day you enter. I know what you're saying. It's on the job calendar, right? The 3 days are on the job calendar. Doesn't matter. The last day they physically enter that building, that is their separation date.
But they'll get paid.
Well, that's on you as far as that goes. That has nothing to do with how they're paid. It's how you pay them out. You understand what I'm trying to say? Like, I'm just separation date and reason. This person left our employee. The last day they physically worked was May 31st and they left for retirement. Okay, no problem. I understand why you're doing that, because so they can get their retirement check on June 1st. I understand that. What you pay them and how you
And that's in the
justify,
compensation.
that's on the compensation screen, how you do that. But here's the thing, that job calendar, you're gonna put a calendar stop date of 5/31, so they don't get those earnings. You have to figure out how to get those earnings to them. That's a different game right there.
They would still get their full, they wouldn't get days. but
They wouldn't get the
still their-
attendance, so that's something that you would have to put a ticket in, or you can agree with me, miss, on that? I mean, I
That's
can't.
Kind of a funny situation.
It is, but their last physical day working is May 31st.
So even the last 30 days, if somebody's on family medical leave.
They
either
end
they're-
up retiring.
And then they retire,
What is are they taking sick days? and-
yeah, sick days the whole month of May
Okay,
on family medical leave, and then they retire. So would that stop date or separation date be the end of
They're
April?
taking sick days, so that's.
yeah, sick day is like a work day. It's a paid day.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, the last sick day they would take, so it was May 31st, May 31st, even though they haven't worked since April 30th.
Okay.
So a sick day, a personal day is like a paid, you know what I mean, a
As for
work
your
day.
situation, they're not gonna get credit for any June days, correct?
Right,
May
Okay.
31st.
through STRS,
Okay.
May 31st.
but we want to pay them their entire contract.
That's, I get it, May 31st.
Yeah, that's something
I believe it should be May 31st.
I do too.
But are we going to have to do something different to make sure they get paid their whole contract? Or will it be?
Well, they have to get those earnings in there.
That's right, and we don't, yeah,
So what you're saying is if a teacher's getting paid $50,000 to work 185 days, the 185 days includes those first 3 days in June. Is
yes,
that correct?
yes,
Okay, so you still want to pay them that 50,000 because
Yes.
they worked overtime, so to speak, to earn that.
yes.
So I think maybe,
You have to adjust the earnings.
yeah, I think
The
that
journal adjustment to adjust.
So
the
you said they're adjusting their working
schedule.
in May, right?
They did, they
Saying
turned in kind of a time sheet just to prove to us that they worked 3
Overtime.
days.
But did you?
But we didn't do anything,
You
on-
didn't do anything with those days that they earned extra. So
No, right.
technically, on May 31st, they have earned their whole contract. It's just that it's
Right.
not displayed on the compensation.
Right.
So in that case, you need to adjust those 3 days on.
So the way you do that, at the bottom of the compensation record, compensation, the journal adjustments at the bottom that you hit create, you can add 3 days, 3 days worth of earnings, and then put there's a little room for description. Okay, why you did this. Okay, you could put worked extra days in May. Something, have some kind of documentation that you can refer to for audit. That way, what it will do, it will increase the number of days worked, because they wouldn't make the STRS advance otherwise. Because they're technically on advance unless you're paying them out in June. Are you paying out their whole contract this
No.
month? You're stretching it out over the
Yeah.
summer. So they would not be on the advance if you do not make sure the number of days in the contract equal the contract work days actually worked. Does that make sense? Okay, so you need to put a ticket in if you need to, and we'll explain it better. So, but that, then it shows they earned their whole contract, so when they're paid out, they'll make it. Is it ever?
These are not, your decision.
No. So,
If we did that.
all right, do we have any questions on any of the EMA stuff we just went over? Are we good on chat? All right, all right. So your new contracts, do you have all your new contracts ready?
Yeah.
Yes, pretty much have it. Okay, these are just some ways you for your new contract, had a ticket, mass copy compensation. You can, this is the way I do it because where there's 25 employees, we're all on the same job calendar. Everything's the same for me. So mass copy works for me. Once you mass copy, it hurts nothing when you mass copy and you do it wrong. It's not a live contract yet. It's not a live contract. All it does is copy the contracts you told it to. It's over on the new contract maintenance, and you could go in and clean that up a little bit. So you need to change most likely the contract amount and obligation. You want to be careful of maybe contracts that started mid-year. They're going to show 26 pays. I mean, it should show 26 pays, but there's only 20 because they didn't start at the beginning. You got to make sure you're cognizant of that. You want to start using your calendar start and stop dates for the contract. So their contracts 8/16 to whatever the last day, work day for them, May 31st. You would want to start using the contract dates because now that's what your earnings are based on. Okay. The contract dates. Some people use the import new contracts. I think do you use the import and how do you like it?
I do like it because with the amount of employees, of course, it makes it easier than trying to do it.
Okay,
It's just making sure that you have everything correctly. So personally, I have contracts that'll start July 1st. I'm going to put them in before I do my payroll this time.
okay,
I already have those ones broke out. I already have the amount that I should be getting when I total it and stuff. To me, I find it a little bit easier
mm-hmm,
because that way I'm not going through all of those and changing each person and it changes it all at one time. And I do run the reports to make sure it balances
right.
and I
Right.
do it per like pay group. So it makes it easier.
So when you import the new contracts, do they show up in the new contract maintenance? Is that where they go when you import them?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I didn't have live experience with it. How's that? I can read all I want, but live experience I do not have. I like the idea of how
And
you,
it does, and if there is an error, you are able to go in there and change, because I've found like sometimes somebody will have, like their days might not have picked up the right day. I might have put in 7/5 instead of 7/1. So I'm able to go to that person when you print those reports, just like you would if you did copy, all the other
Right.
reports. It gives you each person and you can verify each person
okay,
before I go live. That's what I do. I print all those reports and then verify. We actually verify our new salaries probably like 20 times before we do anything with them.
that's smart.
Because I look at them and he looks at them and then we both look at them again and then we look at, just to make sure that one of us didn't miss something.
Right. And like you said, once they're in the even if you imported them and you found a mistake, you could go into the new contract maintenance tab and make any corrections you need to make. The good news about that, being in the new contract, like I said, they're not live contracts yet until you activate them. So what's nice is if an employee at the last minute in July tells you, oh, I'm not coming back to teach, delete. You just go in there and delete their contract. You know what I mean? So, okay. So we did, Bree had done a training on new contracts and we do have it in our fiscal knowledge book 8.7, but here's also the link to the SSDT's documentation on new contracts. Again, the only things I want to point out, if you're copying, just be careful of mid-year contracts, the number of pays that are showing in there. And then the calendar start and stop dates. That's
Yeah.
big now. Please
We
make
had
sure you,
an issue this year, 'cause we had 27 pays last year, we're back to 26 this year.
okay,
So that's one thing I know that I'm gonna watch,
perfect.
I know I have to watch that.
Good job. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate you sharing.
You're welcome.
So month-end closing, I'm not gonna go over month-end closing. That's something you do every month, but it,
Why not? It's so exciting.
oh my gosh. Mine's easy, so I'm not gonna say anything. So, but here's a link to a generic, the SSDT's generic month-end balancing, if you would like to, use theirs if you want. Okay, when you do your month-end closing, you want to balance your payroll account, process any monthly outstanding payables, verify that if you have any outstanding payables left, they're correct. They should be outstanding. Being at the end of a quarter, if you have a payable that's a quarterly, it should be actually posted for the quarter. So you can generate the following monthly reports. It's optional. It's not required. The SERS monthly, STRS monthly, census, and a forward. Okay, those are optional. And then if you need to process any benefit accruals, I accrue our sick leave after my second pay. That's on my checklist, actually. Second pay, accrue the sick leave. So make sure you have everything in place. Then you're going to do your quarter end balancing. Here's a link to the SSDT's generic quarter end balancing. And when you're going to balance the quarter report, you're going to balance your W-2 report. And I'm not saying that balancing your W-2 report's optional. I'm telling you to do it. Okay, yes.
It helps, it does help, because there's been a time that we were off 1 month, like, before we started doing that, we were off 1 month, and to go back and try to find. Where it
Exactly.
exactly is, now it's like, I know, okay, here we go, this is what we're doing.
You know that this quarter was good. You know this quarter was good. Now,
Coffee, if you want any.
so you know it's in this quarter. I'm sorry? Did someone on chat say something?
No check.
Okay.
That's not.
Oh, okay. So verify again all outstanding payables. You want to balance all board paid payroll items. Complete and file all quarter submission forms. Balance and upload ODJFS submission file to the source. You want to double check your default calendars. People have been running into issues with somebody, a sub, maybe having one day on the, a day that they haven't even worked. They haven't worked for you this quarter and they have a day. Well, what we're finding is when you do calamity days and you add them, you're adding them to the default calendar. So any compensation record that has a default calendar, you're giving everybody a day. So you want to be very careful about the calamity days when you add them. The other thing you want to be very careful again, calendar stop dates. If an employee leaves, you want to make sure you have a calendar stop date in, especially if they leave mid-year. You don't do that in there, you keep getting all those days that's on the job calendar. Okay. Okay, so now fiscal year end closeout for our OME-RESA checklist. I have provided it to you, but here's the link to our help desk. It's topic 4.1. Okay, so after all your June payrolls are complete, you want to double check, do you have any contract payoffs that you're going to be doing? Do you need to make any adjustments before you start working on your STRS? You might need to change the pays in the payroll and in their compensation, how many pays are in the contract. If you change that, make sure you hit the calculate button and know that it can affect your pay per period amount. Are you aware of any docs during advance? So you're spreading somebody's docs out over through the summer to recover some money. If you're aware of that now, put them in now. Okay, because the STRS advance will take that into consideration. And then once you get into your July pay period, you can just delete them out and dock as you need to each pay. Or you can leave them in. It's totally up to you. So now we're going to generate all these STRS reports. So one of the things I think I forgot to mention when we were up in the pre-closing, If you find that you have teachers that don't have all their days, and I said you had to make compensation adjustments to make sure it shows that they worked all their days. If you find it soon enough, you can actually plant days on those calendars for everybody. So if it's the whole pay group for teachers, they're short 5 days. You didn't, for whatever reason, they're short for 5 days. You could go in and plant in June, 5 work days. And then after you process the payroll, you can go and delete those out. What that's going to do for you is it's going to increase the number of days worked. So now it matches the number of days in the contract. It will also increase their earnings for those 5 days, because you can't just increase the days. You have to increase the earnings too, to go with it. So it looks like it shows that they worked their whole contract. They've earned their whole contract. Okay. So here are the 3 reports that you want to double check. Yes, you may have done it now, but you want to do it again, go through and run these reports, because you know if there's any issues, if you balance now on June 7th, you know that issue had to fall somewhere within these next couple weeks, which helps narrow it down for you. So here's just a screenshot I wanted to show you to show you that here's the 3 reports, and the submission file button is right below it. And it's so easy for that mouse to move and you accidentally click it. Okay. The advanced fiscal year to date report. So the employee needs to have a position with the retirement assistant STRS showing on the position. The employee must have earnings in the current fiscal year. And if you see, I have a little asterisk because for advancing compensation, accrued wages will be added. It's going to be accrued wages equals the contract obligation, less the amount paid, less the amount docked. Okay. Adjustment journal type equaling total gross and pay item equaling 591 and or 691 with a transaction date that's within this fiscal year will be added to the earnings, and the applicable gross for the historical STRS pay items that have a pay date within the fiscal year end will be added. Okay. Employee must have a contract compensation with date ranges that fall within this current fiscal year, and the compensations paid is not equal to the pays in the contract, or the compensation has been paid in the fiscal year. Okay, so it can be paid off in this fiscal year. Again, there's a little asterisk that just goes down, and having a compensation stop date can prevent a compensation from advancing if that stop date falls within the academic year. The academic year is 7/1 to 6/30. Okay. Okay. And then having it will also impact that stop date that falls within the year will impact the number of STRS days that shows on the advanced fiscal year to date report. And then to go on with that, or the employee must have a non-contract compensation with a date range that overlaps the fiscal year. If either of these conditions plus the first 2 bullets are met, the employee will be on the report. Okay. So basically, anybody who paid into STRS is going to be on this report in this year, unless you have a stop date in there somewhere. Okay. So the equation for the advanced fiscal year to date report, employees share of fiscal year to date that has been paid, plus the board paid employee share fiscal year to date, which is your 691 payroll item, minus last year's fiscal year advance, plus this fiscal year advance will equal your taxed and non-taxed amount. Okay. I don't think anybody in one of our districts has taxed for their STRS. I mean, I know one district that taxes the employee share of SCRS, but other than that, I think everybody's pre-tax on their contributions and such. So STRS advanced year-to-date report, you want to verify the service credits. So any employee who has worked 120 days or more will get 100% credit. Employees that work 120 days or less, it will be based on the STRS decision tree. I have a link to that decision tree in our knowledge book topic 4.1. You're going to notice 4.1 has all kinds of stuff in it. Has all the attachments we sent you plus links in it. So employees flagged as part-time receive service credit based on the current STRS decision tree. Again, if you have any questions about full-time or part-time status, you will need to direct those questions to STRS. We cannot answer those types of questions. Okay? So reemployed retirees will always have 0% credit because they've already got all their credit. They don't need more credit. So that's why they're 0%. But it is based on that flag on the 450 record, retiree. I'll probably have that backwards. But here's also a link to our SSDTs, STRS Advance, how to correct an employee if you did not flag an employee as rehired. Okay, calculated service credit for a rehired retiree will flag a warning. This warning can be ignored. It's only a warning. You always want to double check it, but if you know that's true, it can be ignored. Okay, so I put in some of these screenshots to try to help you explain, to show you what each set means of numbers. The first one, I'm not going to read through them all since it is self-explanatory. Is that okay with everybody? Or do you want me to read over this? Okay, so I'm going to go through these screenshots. Shut up, Missy. Okay. So you do want to balance the deposit pickup amount on the report, which should equal the payroll item checks issued to 591 for the 591 employee share, plus the budgetary 691 payments that were made. So you have to add those together. If you cannot balance and are unable to resolve, you can send a ticket to us at FStaffR, or you can reach out to STRS because they balance by employee as well as the district. So the way they handle things is a little different. We see what you see. Here's another link to STRS Advanced Balancing to help you out. And here is that what they're trying to get you to balance. The deposit, the non-tax deposit pickup, which is the top line, is the amount of STRS for 591 and 691 for the fiscal year. That's how much you paid. And then the non-tax total is the deposit pickup plus the advance. So that's how much you should be paying for STRS for the whole fiscal year. Okay, it's going to be credited in this fiscal year. Okay. The advanced position, like I said, in order to appear on the advanced position report, it's going to be someone who has worked their whole contract. Their number of work days have to equal the number of days in the contract. Their accrued wages needs to be greater than 0, and there needs to be pays left in their contracts to be paid. Okay. Archived, if you archived a compensation for someone who may have left in the middle of a year, they won't be included. So keep that in mind. Did you accidentally archive an employee who left, thinking you didn't need to do it, like they left in December? I don't need them now. The advanced position report, again, it should be checked carefully. It needs to be consistent with prior years. Obviously, the numbers aren't going to be the same, but it should be fairly consistent. You want to check your supplemental contracts. Many times these are missed. A staff member who retires or rehires in the same year. They retired as of December 31st, came back January 1st as a rehired. They're going to have 2 lines on this report. The first line is going to be for when they were regular employees for the first half of the year, and the second line is going to be for the amount they earned as a rehired retiree. Okay. You want to make sure that box is checked. A lot of times that gets missed, especially when they do it in the middle of a year. You miss it.
I have a question.
Sure.
We have a teacher that is retiring.
Uh-huh.
They retired under STRS, but are starting as of June 1st as an SERS employee. Do I need to go in and mark the STRS as a
No, because their position will have the retirement code of SERS.
Yes.
Okay, and you'll set up the position, and that's what the payroll items look at. What positions have this?
I did that. I did
Okay.
it on the SERS, but I wasn't sure if I needed to do something with the SERS.
No,
one.
because you wouldn't check the box on the SERS because they aren't retired from SERS. Make sense? You wouldn't check anything on STRS because they're not coming back as an STRS
So my
employee.
STRS doesn't need to be that they're retired.
I don't think so, miss. What do you think? Because they didn't retire from the STRS.
I would ask the retirement system if
You could double check
they
that.
need to be aware of that. I would.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because right now I have it marked and I put the date that like he's starting under SERS,
uh-huh.
but
Yeah, usually when you retire from STRS and you come back, they want to
they
know that
normally,
because they
they
take
come
that.
back to STR. They
That
don't
Right.
really
And
see-
put it
they're not
into an
switching from
annuity
a-
versus. your
Basically
retirement,
switching from a
right.
class, from a certified to class.
With the crossing, I don't, because they don't pay into the same bucket like they would if they
Mhm.
retired from one
Yeah.
retirement system and went right back to that retirement system. I'm not sure if the other retirement system needs to know or not.
Right.
Right.
Reach out to them.
Ask,
I'll
because I
send-
just went into our system, which just would have been Amy had done it. And we had one, and he's been SERS for several years now, and he's marked.
That's what I say,
Okay.
double check that because,
I'll send them an email on Monday. then,
yeah. Hey,
and
would you
ask
do me a
them about
favor?
it.
Would you reach out to me and let me know what they
Yeah,
know for sure?
I'll forward you
Yeah,
whatever I find out.
that'd be great. Thank
How's
you.
that?
Okay. That's a good question, Michelle. Thank you again. All right. So if you were to miss flagging a retired, rehired employee on the 450, you've been paying them like they're regular, and STRS hasn't reached out to you, there is a way to correct this. And here is the link to the SSDT's documentation of what you need to do to fix that. Okay. All right. So this is just to show how they come up with the advance amount, the equation that they come up with. You can look at it very easy. So non-advanced position obviously are for STRS employees that have a position that has the STRS retirement selected. They have not worked their full contract by June 30th. So if they're, and usually this is principal superintendents type positions. They haven't worked their full contract by June 30th. And the system knows to go and look at the job calendars to see as of June 30th, what they're going to be. So those are the types of people you should see on here. Here's where you're going to find, like I said, if you have teachers that don't have all those days, you know that they've worked every day. And this is where you're going to find it if they appear on here. Because like I said, the system goes out to the job calendars and looks. Okay. And here's what we talked about. If you had any June pays left, you can plant those days on that are job calendar. Just you have to remember to go in and take them back off.
Because I found on mine, I did my advance already. I had people that started after the school year. So their dates were on board. That their dates are off because they didn't pick up those first few days, so.
Because
I
they
have-
started late and
they
everything.
started later, so that might be something you might need to look at too. It might not just be, all my other teachers are fine. It's
Okay.
just these four because they didn't
They
start
started
the
late.
first day, yeah,
In that particular case, then,
and I.
you
have-
don't want to add days to the job calendar
No,
because you
I-
do, the whole pay group gets those days.
That's why I mentioned that. because
Thank you.
It's only four people that I'm gonna manually. make
Go
the
do, just
adjustment
make
for.
sure when you increase the days worked, you increase the earnings too, okay? All right,
I
so
verified that this morning when I first came in, just to make sure that I was gonna.
you did that right, okay. All right. So you want to check for warnings and errors, the documentation for that. I do have it actually in 5.7. It is also I put it as part of your checklist in the back there, but there's also a link to the SSDTs, which is really what I copied and put into your checklist. Okay. All right. So once you have balanced, you've already closed your month, you've closed your quarter, you've balanced your STRS reports. Now you can go ahead and create the STRS submission file. When you create the STRS submission file, it's going to set, there's that little box on the compensation records, and it's going to check it to show that they're in advanced, okay, in advanced mode. Also, you want to go and look at the configuration, STRS advanced configuration, and you want to make sure that you see a number, an advanced amount. This will stay 0, okay? When you pay back, as you process payrolls, that advanced payback is going to start adding up. We want that number to come up to the advanced amount. It's also going to check this box right here that says that you're in advanced mode. Okay? So all reports that when you create the submission file, they're going to go to your file archives and they're going to be under the year, fiscal year reports. Okay? If you want to print and save at this time, you can. You might want to save the report so you can find them quicker on your computer. That's fine. But just know that they actually do go to your archives. When you submit, you're going to submit the file now. This is the name of the file. The first STRS AD, that YY is your year, 06 is the month, June. And you're going to upload that to STRS. You want to upload it here. You're going to select your file, click on the choose file, get that submission file, and then you're going to do the submit update, uploaded files for STRS. Now, we took this out of the book a couple of years ago. Actually, it's been a long time that we took this out, and we had one district tell us that they do this. Does anybody use a third party that they have to add information for STRS into their existing file? Okay, we have one district that does. So I'm not sure if they're on this the Zoom call, so I'm going to go over it. So that's very simple. Once you create the submission file, you're going to go scroll down to the STRS advanced grid, the page, and there's going to be STRS merge files. You're going to click on choose file and upload that submission file, which is that STRS ADYY, which would be 2406.txt. Then you're going to go down and click the choose file for upload file to merge. This is the file that third party provides you for that. You're then going to click on the generate STRS merge report, and you want to verify all the information, make sure it's accurate. And then when everything's good, you're going to hit the merge files and it's going to merge it for you. Yours from the redesign and the third party. And then you'll go up to that upload submission file and choose the file, which will be STRS AD merge. And then you're going to upload to STRS. So keep that in mind if you ever have anything like that. It's very simple to combine. Yes, ma'am.
We have a question online,
Okay.
referring back to the retire.
Okay.
The question is, do you have to flag them as a retiree if they retired from a different school district?
Yeah. Yes, you do. If you retire from a different school district, so you retired from Steubenville as a teacher, STRS, now you're out at Indian Creek teaching, it's STRS position. Yes, that flag needs to be checked. The STRS system needs to know that you already retired. This is a rehired position. Thank you.
I just rather you
No,
answer than.
That's okay. Thanks. I think it was a good question. Thank you. I don't know who submitted. Okay, you're welcome. All right. So once you've uploaded your submission file, whether it be the STRS AD 2406 or STRS AD merge text file, you will want to come back over to your STRS advanced configuration. You want to make sure you see that timestamp sitting there. Okay. It is strongly recommended before you move on that you see that. Believe it or not, we had a couple districts, was it last year, Miss, or the year before, that STRS said they didn't receive it.
Yep.
Oh, we have a timestamp. We know when you know what I mean? So thank God these go to the file archives. They just uploaded it again, but still. Okay. So when you close the STRS submission, these are the files that are going to go to the archives, your advanced fiscal year to date, advanced position, non-advanced positions, the merge report, if that's applicable, the merge submission file, if applicable, and then your regular STRS file. Okay. Remember, you cannot process a July payroll until your STRS has been submitted. Okay, you've created a submission file. You cannot start a new payroll. I shouldn't say start. You might be able to start. You won't be able to post.
I don't even think it lets you initialize.
Really? It might not. Okay.
Thank you.
So STR, now moving on, generate your SCS surcharge report. One of the flyers I attached, there was an SCRS surcharge. We had a treasurer bring up questions about SCRS, and SCRS gave me this handout to help. SCRS surcharge has a few questions in there. So who should show on my report? I'm on the front page at the bottom, and there are exceptions. Because this irritates me, SCRS surcharge. And it irritates me because we had an employee who worked for 2 months and they quit. We had to pay a surcharge. They quit. They didn't work a whole year. We had to pay a surcharge. And it irritated every living heck out of me. But there are some exceptions. So if you have a coach, and this is the biggest one, if you have a coach who is SCRS, and you know they're not retiring from SCRS, you know they're not, I would suggest that they request their money. They want a refund. Because if they refund the money, you don't have to pay surcharge on them. If they don't refund their money, you have to pay surcharge on them. And the threshold now is $30,000 this year. Yep. So I just wanted to provide that.
Request it every year.
Yeah, they'd have to request it every year. They can. But it's just, I wanted to point that out to you. That
But they
these,
would have to have that done by when? Is there like a certain?
it just says members who retired, refunded their accounts or received disability benefits effective before July 1st. So if you contact them in May, most sports are over except for baseball, softball, depending.
That's why I was just thinking, if I send a letter now.
You want to go ahead and get that refunded. Okay, so that's why I included that page for you, because I thought it was helpful. They also sent along this page for compensation. How many times you asked, do I take SCRS out on certain things? And this gives you a list of things that it has to come out on, and what on the back is what is exempt from it. So if you're paying out vacation, sick days, it just talks about that some more. I thought there were some nice tools to have at your disposal. So if you have any questions on that. Okay. I also included, and this is for those of you who didn't make it to our user group meeting. STRS did a presentation and they gave us this handout on about the STRS Advance. I want to call your attention to, it's page 4, but it's slide 8. It's back posting versus accrued contributions. And what that has to deal with is if you paid, someone worked extra days in June, but you didn't know it, and you pay them in August, that technically it's to you, it's like new earnings, but it's actually should belong in fiscal year 2024. And this is what it talks about. You need to back post that. So that's what this handout that was with it, that started common issue correction for summer of late payments, on how you correct that. You'll have to contact STRS, I believe, but these are the adjustments you're going to have to make to their STRS payroll items. I just thought that was something that was helpful for those of you who could not attend that user group meeting.
And they went to the SSDT and asked for those screenshots
Yes.
so that they could make it easier on you. If this situation happens, here's the way your screen should be set up.
Right. So that's what we tried to do with our user group meetings. We tried what's coming up, like TaxPert. We love having TaxPert at our fall one, getting ready for the fiscal year end. And this is something new that I just got today. And Lori, if you will pass this out to everybody. I had a ticket regarding what, if they should be withholding STRS from an employee on, I think it was stipends. The answer is yes. Bonus. The answer was yes. But I went online to STRS and they have a little fact sheet on compensations. Yes, ma'am.
Will you be sending that out by email for those on Zoom?
Yes. For those of you on Zoom, I will send out a new email. I'll probably just take the email that we sent yesterday and forward it with this new attachment. So for you that are here, if when you see it, just ignore it. This one, just this one. Okay, only ignore this one. But on there, it does talk about what you have to withhold STRS on. And the first question on the back page, it asks about our bonuses. And that was the question. So I thought every little tool helps,
Can
okay?
I jump in real quick, Miss?
You can jump in, please.
Also, we were talking in our office the other day. We're longer going to hand out paper W-2s to our employees. They're going to receive them electronically, but there are some things that have to be put in place in order, before you do that, they have to sign off acknowledging that they are going to receive it electronically. No, they're not going to get paper. They have to sign something stating that. That's in IRS regulations. So we have TaxPert here at OME-RESA.
Mhm.
So I sent an email to the representative and I said, do you have a template letter that we could start as a base and maybe change a few things if we want, so that we can send out to our employees and have them sign off? The reason I'm bringing this up now is because I don't want to bring it up to you in November. And then your guys are all rushing to get, if you decide to not give your people paper W-2s anymore.
Mhm.
So when I get that template letter, I just checked, he's out at a conference and he said he'll get back to me next week. So if you would like, I'll pass that template letter out if you're thinking about possibly not handing out paper W-2s and you would like to tweak it or just use it as is when it comes in.
Does everybody have to, what if you have one person that says no, I want paper?
You could print paper, and here's what else I'm going to mention to you. We always purchase the forms for you when we printed them for you. You don't really actually have to have the official form. You just have to provide them with the instructions that's on the back of the W-2. So if you take the instructions and you copy it however many times people are requesting a paper, you could print the W-2 on paper and on the back of it or a second page, have the instructions and hand it to them. So I'm trying to save you guys time and money, not buying forms, possibly emailing these to the employees. So when I get that template letter, I will forward that out for anyone who's interested. Yeah, if you do paper W-2s still, you're going to want to order ones that you don't have pressure seal unless you have a folder sealer. You're going to have to get ones that you stuff in an envelope because you're not going to have a folder sealer to pressure seal them like we did, unless you want to come and use ours. More than welcome to. But I'm throwing these ideas out now because I don't want you to have to start emergency thinking about them at the end of November. We are not printing them anymore.
We're done printing.
We're done printing them.
And piggybacking on what she said about those letters for the W-2s, maybe that could become part of your new employee packet.
That's what I,
You know what I mean? They sign off that they're gonna get it. So it's just ideas that we want to put forth to you, okay?
We have another chat question,
Okay,
regarding the letter sent to the SERS employees requesting the refund. We have someone who asked, do we send a letter to these SERS individuals asking to request a refund? And if so, does anyone have a form letter that they would like to share?
okay. That was something that a member in our audience has talked about doing, about sending a letter here at OME-RESA. That's not what we're telling you to do. You can handle the situation to your way of thinking, you know, the way your works. But if anybody does create a letter, if you want to share it with us so we could share it with other districts, that would be much appreciated. So is that okay with you, Kim? If you create a letter for the SCRS refunds, if you create one, would you be willing to share it? We have a district who's asked. Okay, she said sure. So if that person who, if we want to write down their name or have them send a ticket, so we have a showing that they're requesting it, and I could put them in touch with the treasurer. All right. So moving on, you want to create your SERS liability report by generating the wage obligation by employee report. The report parameters are at the back of the checklist on page 18. You want to save this report for your auditors. You want to generate the next couple benefit obligation report, wage obligation reports. Now that it's part of the file archive, they do save them in PDF and CSV format. I only left this on here because if you want it ran a certain way, you know how the archives they do it their way. You might want to, they might do employee number, you might want employee name, something along those lines. So that's why I left this in here. You don't have to, because it is part of the closeout when you close the posting period. But just remember, if you're going to do it, you want to do it before you start anything in July posting, the posting period, because it will affect that. You,
Your final, that SCRS letter that you asked about, when you're, when they're final, if they get their final, that's when I would give them that.
okay, okay,
Because SDR, most people who work in SDRs and aren't going to retire do not realize that.
they can do that.
Need to get their money.
Okay,
I mean, it's not something you get told when you're getting that last check. And
okay. It was suggested by Lori, actually. If you want to send out, this is backtracking to the SCRS with the refund, that when you, but most people are direct deposit, but if you do give them a paper check to maybe include a letter, maybe telling them you might want to go ahead and request a refund from SCRS.
Call to SERS or they. I'm just
There's a
trying to
form, I
get
think
that
there's,
letter,
you know what, and that's something we might want to reach out to
Okay.
SCRS. I know that there's a form that they have to fill out that comes back to the school district. So maybe reach out, can we, or maybe go to the site and see if there's a form on there, you know, that the form's on there.
This year, but.
Yeah, you're too late for this year, but moving forward, this is maybe something, it might save your district a little money. You know, maybe you can upgrade your computer with that or get extra monitors.
Well, I have my oldest
Yeah.
son was SCRS. and he never.
Okay. All right. So moving forward, the last thing on this slide is you want to schedule the job to send your extract files to the auditor of state. The instructions for this is also on the last page, which is page 19 of the checklist. Okay. So once you've done all of this, you can, you're now ready to close your posting period. So when we close the bigger posting periods, such as December and June, we always want you to give it a few minutes before you do anything. We want the system to have time to calculate all those reports. Now, there's always reports at the end, but December and June, there's extra reports that are going to be generated to put out in the archives. So change the post period, maybe at the end of the day, go home, come back the next day, go to lunch, go get a coffee, go to the bathroom, something. So it gives this time to generate all these reports. So below is the reports that you will see in the file archive bundles, which would be 2024 fiscal year reports. As you can see, the benefit obligation and the wage obligation, now they are creating it in CSV and PDF format. So the auditors can manipulate the data if they need to. And then all the rest that you see here. So if you're one of the ones who create as you go the posting period, you want to go ahead and create the posting period for July if you haven't done so, and then make it current. If you have already made it, you'll make it current. So the first pay of July now can be processed. You've closed out the month. Okay, so if there's mistakes found after the fact on STRS Advance, if you haven't ran a payroll in July, we can take you out of Advance, or the treasurer can now, and you'll have to go back to June posting period. Okay, you have to reopen June, make your correction, rerun your reports to balance again, and then submit. Because I'm not familiar with STRS, you'll probably have to contact them to tell them you found a mistake, get rid of that old file, and I need to upload a new file. Okay, that's something you have to handle with them. If you have already ran a payroll in July when you find your mistake, there's nothing we can do for you. You're going to have to contact STRS and they'll walk you through how to correct that. They're easy. They from what I've heard, they'll work with you because they want it done right just as much as you do. So if not more, actually. Okay, so items to consider. While you're in STRS Advance, you cannot pay any regular or irregular pay types on compensations that are in STRS advance mode. If doc, retro, termination, payoff of accrued wages can affect your STRS balancing. This is why we say, if you know of any of these things ahead of time before you close June, you want to try to get them in docs. They're leaving earlier than anticipated, what have you. Modifying the number of pays paid can affect the STRS advanced balancing. And it could be only pennies, because of that rounding issue. So, but it will affect it. During the payroll process, the fiscal year to date amounts on the 450, 591, and 691 will list both advanced amounts and new earnings. Okay. The pay report will list your advance amount at the bottom on a payroll report, and there's a little snippet of what it looks like. It is always recommended that after every payroll, you go and look at that configuration to see. Okay, I just posted my first July payroll. The amount that's listed here is $11,750. Is that what I see that is showing as amount paid? Okay, and then every pay, obviously you have to start using your noodle and add the numbers together after that pay. Okay. Again, the amount paid, that amount will increase on the configuration screen as you process payrolls until you match what you have listed or go above. Sometimes you can go above. Amount of all summer pays, after all summer pays are completed, you want to make sure you go back and check this to make sure now you should be zeroed. If you've paid everything you should have paid, those fields should be blank and the box should be unchecked. If it isn't, you're going to have to make sure you run that check STRS report, because then you'll be able to match that up with your advance report for each employee to show, okay, Kim was supposed to have $1,000, but wait, $999.99. You know what I mean? You'll be able to find why it's going on. I will tell you that the check STRS advance needs to be ran after your last pay for STRS advance. So if your final pay for that should clear up your STRS advance is August 31st, you want to run that report then. You don't want to run another report, okay? I mean, another pay before you do that, okay? Even if you do balance, it doesn't hurt to have that report. All right. So again, this is things we just went over. If you have any corrections, you'll need to file with STRS. And then I know it says send a ticket, but again, that's now a treasurer's privilege to take you out of advance. Again, do not take yourself out of advance until you know why it didn't balance. And I put that note in there again. If the new amount paid back, if it's not paid back, it doesn't balance by December 31st. When you change to January processing, it will automatically clear it out for you. So you want to prevent any issues. STRS coming into you in the spring and saying there was an issue. Okay. So after the final EMIS reporting period for the current fiscal year closes, again, this is something you need to coordinate with your EMIS coordinators to make sure they're not filing an appeal. And if they are, you're going to have to hold off on this. But otherwise, treasurers, you're going to have to go into system configuration, EMIS reporting configuration, and change it to 2025. I know it looks like 2025, but
Miss, there's
This-
a question. real quick
okay.
there, honey.
I'm going to finish this statement real quick
Okay,
though.
go ahead.
This is usually at the beginning of the year when we got all these errors. The first thing we're going to ask you, did you change it to 2025? And so many people have missed it. So, and I'll explain what I'm going to do to try to help you moving forward on that one. Okay, what's the question?
Is the USPS system capable of sending notices of the W-2s like it does for direct deposits? So I don't think it's automated to do that.
This,
Yeah.
I know in kiosk it has it in there, but I want to, off the top of my head, I want to say the answer is yes, but I'm not 100% sure.
To have the W-2. So if we,
I didn't know the USPS
Yeah,
would do it. I thought ESS would be the source.
to have the W-2s in there, correct?
I'm-
Yeah, so if we email our W-2s out and they don't get emailed, when we say refer to our so-called new kiosk, you
Yeah,
know, how long after will the W-2s be listed in that?
And you physically upload the W-2s in the kiosk.
currently I do.
And I imagine it will be the same with ESS.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
hasn't been addressed yet.
I
We're still
keep,
waiting on importing information on
Mhm.
the kiosk.
yeah, so I will tell you, like in kiosk, all my W-2s are there for every year I've worked here. So they're there all the time. So, I'm gonna have to look into the email, the
And we
form.
might not be able to answer Jenny's question until we know more about the ESS. too.
Okay, that's true, true. All right, but when we'll make a note that that's something we want to address when we are in a position to do that. Okay, the deadline for the staff submission currently, now, I made the mistake, I listened to the SSDT. It is actually August 2nd. I have August 7th there, crud. Okay, so if you want to please change that to August 2nd, I mean, it is 7th, I'm sorry. You have the 2nd on there. I did fix it on here, but I knew you didn't have it when we sent it out. Okay? So usually STRS and the final collection for staff course is the same day, more times than not. Okay? So once you are done, the reportable to EMIS for 2024. This is going to be part of your checklist anyway. You've closed the staff course collection. You can go in and unflag those reportable to EMIS on the compensation. So the new ones will start to be reported in its place. This will stop the old contracts from pulling into EMIS. And sometimes that does happen. Okay, you might, before you have a chance to, you might not want to archive some compensations at this yet, but this will prevent it from being caught in that collection. Okay. This is just the mass, what the mass change looks like. You will, while you're in maintenance mode, you're going to select change EMIS flag. Everybody should have that in their mass change. So switch it over to an execution mode and submit mass change. And there's going to be a number that shows you how many records you are going to be changing. Okay. So I'm only going to go briefly over the checklist, not very much because we just went over the majority of it.
Almost like an answer question.
You sure can ask a question.
So. Bear with us, because, you know, being Tracy and I knew with this, so there's times that you gotta go back in and mark the Cs to use or something like that.
Yes,
Does that have anything to do with that, or do you have to manually?
that's something that's manual. Changing a status from a C to U is a manual change.
And who are the people that would have to do that to?
Usually you have to use a U if you missed reporting them in the year they did actually leave. So in case your teachers, we'll use that. Their last day was May 31st. You missed one of the teachers. You don't pick it up until next year in the new fiscal year 2025. So you would still go in and put a separation date and reason of 5/31/2024, but I believe you changed the status to a C the first time and a U for the second reporting period. Because there's two
So as
reporting
long as
periods.
as long as we have taken care of everybody by June 30th.
Then you just shut them down. You should never have to. That's the incentive for you.
Okay, so let's go back to Amy, who retired in December.
Okay,
Her separation date has been in there and she was reported as C. At this point in time, she could be reported now as a U.
no, you want to leave her as a C because she did actually work and earn in this year.
Okay.
Okay, but once the final staff course and collection closes in August, you would go in and uncheck the reportable
On that
EMIS
mass change.
on everything. Yeah, you could do the compensation, but in her particular case, you need to uncheck position and employee too. This is only for compensations for continuing employees, like you wanna.
Everybody that left during this year.
Yeah, if you have all their separation dates and reasons in there for the final course collection, once it closes, you can uncheck. I say unflag them to report, and that means 3 places: employee, position, maybe more than one position, and compensation. Got it?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, So. No, I don't want that one. Where is my? Missy, please behave. I thought I had this open.
You tell why I'm always in trouble.
Yeah. There we go. Okay, so here is. That. Yeah, it's really big. So, all right. I have this in Word document, makes it easier. Oh, yeah, I could take, I mean, is that too big? Well, yeah, it is because it's rolling off the page. So I'm gonna make this view a little smaller. Oh, nope. There we go. I'll let zoom. There we go. All right. Push this up. There's 4 in chat. Is there anything that needs to be addressed before I move on? Are we good? Good. All right. So the checklist is basically everything we just went over. So I'm not going to read line by line. I'm just going to point out a couple things. Then the first thing I'm going to point out is number 7. If you missed incrementing years of experience back in August, you need to make sure it's done now before the final course staff and collection is closed. Okay. That was number 1. Okay, let's see. Again, that's if you missed it. All right. I think the only other thing that's on this list that I want to bring up is, where are we at? I want to go slow. I don't want to make you sick. Okay, the employee master and employee earn register. You don't have to do these if you don't want to, because they do go to the file archive. But if you like to run them in a certain way, you don't like how the system generates that report and puts it into the file archives, you can run it for the first 6 months of this calendar year. That is optional. It's recommended, but it's optional. Same thing with employee master. Okay. We've gone over submitting the STRS file, uploading, okay, the submission file. Again, here's the reports that are generated and put out in the file archives. Again, wait a few minutes. The restrictions for STRS. Okay, we've gone over all of this except for mass change. If anybody has to have a mass change done before you run your first July payroll, such as insurance rates, let us know. You might need them done now for July. I don't know how everybody is set up. Some pay current, some pay in advance for it. We are advanced. Let us know. We'll help you with any mass changes to get those figures changed for you. And again, here is just that I told you about for the insurance premiums, that's over $50,000. It shows you how to come up with the amount that you need to add to employees' total gross and applicable gross. I put the formula, not the formula, the chart, because this example says it's a 35-year-old, okay? And this, once you figure that out, you have to find out what this amount is here, and that's on page 8. So you would have to go to page 8. You could go to the publication too, but I just copied and pasted in here. So 35 years old, this is where it came up with that 9 cents per thousand. Okay. I put in here some STRS, the report details, more explanations. I put in the STRS errors and warnings. There's a new thing here that the following warning: employee has been archived compensation that was paid within the fiscal year has been changed to info. Okay. And then other than that, here's your error messages that you could conceivably see. Unless you're perfect like Missy. STRS annual reporting, commonly asked questions. Look here first. If you have a question, see if it's something that can help you. Wow, a lot of questions. Quarter end balancing, just I put a little snippet in there balancing with your quarter report, W-2 report, balancing. SCRS liability, that report that I told you that I needed you to run, the wage obligation, you need to use these parameters for the SCRS liability report. This is something your auditor's gonna want. So I provide the parameters that they want you to use when you run this report. And then last is scheduling the extracts for auditor state. Now, here's the link to the cron expression generator. This cron expression here tells me 0 seconds, 0 minutes, 22 hours. It is military time. So if you put 10 o'clock, it's going to try to run it at 10 o'clock in the morning. So I want you to keep that in mind. So that's why it's 22, because I wanted 10 p.m. The day of the month, there's no day of the week, which is why there's a question mark. And in my year is 24/21. What that tells me, it's going to run every year on this date at that time, starting in 2024. You can do that too. If you know that your payroll's you're going to be closed out by July 15th because you have a pay on the 5th of July. You know you have to be closed out by the 15th. You can go ahead and do this. So it's something you don't have to do every year. Okay. So that's all I have for that checklist. And then the last thing I have for you, I separate out. This is what I did differently. This was at the back of our checklist historically. There is now a front page for August. Once EMA staff course and collection has closed, and you need to verify that with your EMA's coordinator. These are the steps I need you to take, okay? So I need you to change employee screen. On the employee screen, I need you to clear the long-term illness you just set up this month, actually. You're going to increment the years of experience. You're going to clear EMA's contract fields. That is very important. On the position screen, let me see if I can pull that up. Yeah. On the position screen, there are fields in the EMIS related section. Okay, here we go. Right here, EMIS related information. And there are override fields. You should not use those override fields unless you've done a mid-year contract change. Or there's another reason why you do not want to report what's on the compensation screen. Because this will override that compensation screen. And here's why it's important not to use these. Just came to our attention this week. There's a school district that used these override compensation, override fields. And it was fine for the year they needed it, but they didn't clear them out. So they've been reporting the wrong wages for this employee for the next 2 years. Okay, this is what they're reporting to EMIS. So it's very important to only use these fields when you need to override what's on the compensation field in a compensation record. One reason you'd want to override the compensation record, mid-year contract change. You can't report 2 compensation records to EMIS. You can only report 1. But they earned and paid so much on this, the mid-year contract is only for the remainder of that contract. You wouldn't report the right amount if you only use that compensation record. So you need to merge those 2 amounts. Okay?
Should be blank.
Yes, they should be blank.
Unless you had a
Unless-
mid-year contract change.
That's one of the examples. If they're wrong right now, you have a chance to clear them up. If you go on this checklist I gave you for EMIS follow-up after, there's one in here to clear those override fields. You can do that now. Okay, you can do that now. So your last reporting staff course collection is correct. Okay. But normally you wouldn't have to do it right now. Okay. So there's the mass compensation that I had mentioned at the end of the PowerPoint, to turn off the EMIS flag or uncheck that EMIS box on the compensation for fiscal year 22-24 contracts. And then you want to make sure you change the fiscal year, which I had mentioned as well. Okay? If a person is leaving the district, you need to make sure you uncheck the box on all positions and employee screen as well. Okay? So on the back are STRS follow-ups. Again, they'd be August, so that's why I separated them out. So you want to verify that you have paid back, you're not in advance mode, and what you can do. So the last attachment I gave you, we had an EMIS payroll training. And some of you came, some of you didn't. I didn't want you to have the whole thing necessarily, but there are 2 pages that I think are very helpful for the payroll person. And that would be page 6. And it says, which staff should be reported to EMIS? Okay, page 6. Are we on it now? Okay. And then the next page, page 7, which staff should not be reported to EMIS? I just think it would help you tremendously to know who needs to be reported and who doesn't. Okay, there's other information.
Do you have that to bring up for the online people?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll bring it up. Okay. So there's the one for who should be reported. And we got this from the EMIS manual, 3.1, page 4 through 8. And Lori and Bree, our techie people, showed us how to use the QR code, create QR codes. We are like coming into the, what, are we at the 20th or 21st now?
Welcome to 1990.
Oh, shit. Man, she's cruel. Yeah. Bree said, welcome to 1999. 1990, you said 99?
Yeah, that one from someone who just turned 40.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. So I just thought, I want to give you as many tools as possible to help you, especially in this ever-changing world. I personally have this manual, the EMIS manual, bookmarked because things change from year to year. So you can go and see the most up-to-date information on the EMIS. Another good thing about the EMIS manual is when here's a good one for you. Your EMIS coordinator comes to you and says, hey, I have a CI error on the record, your payroll records. And you look at them like, what's a CI record? Like it's your employee record. CK is your position, position. There is in the manual, if they could tell you what those numbers are after those 2 letters, it can tell you exactly what the problem is. So CI records, you might have a space. That happens a lot in some of the fields. CK, you might be missing a code, the position code, I think is what it's called. So I just wanted to, like I said, it's a great tool. You know, this handout, the EMIS manual and the SERS, STRS, I hope you get some use out of it. So anything else? I know it was a lot. Payroll sucks, but we want our money. So anything anybody wants to discuss, it does not have to be necessarily on EMIS or any of that. Any questions? All right. Stop. Oh, wait, we have a question.
This is FYI, we had this situation last week. She had gone in and started putting in long-term illnesses.
Okay.
And our EMIS person had submitted a file, and then she was getting these errors back. And I just asked her, like, did you guys figure out what those errors were? And she said it had to do with the long-term illnesses because she had put in more days for the long-term illnesses than absences that had been brought in.
You have to have absences to match your long-term illness.
So just FYI, if anybody.
Yeah.
else is in there.
So in that particular case, depending on your payroll, how you import absences and stuff, you may not be able to bring in your long-term illness until you've processed the payroll that some of those absences were on. Because if you put in 20 days, but 5 of those days were on a payroll that hasn't processed, the system's gonna say, wait, you're saying 20, but I only see 15.
Yeah.
So that's a very good point. Thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it. Anything else? You have any questions or anything? All right, well, it is 10:50. We'll
Let's
take
take 10
we'll take a 10-minute break.
Stop the recording.
Thank you. We're gonna pause the recording.
Like, give me time.
So now you can tell us what you really think of us, now that we're not recording.
Go get something. All right, you can start recording now. Breathe for me. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna get started. So hopefully we can get out of here on time because we have to go through budgetary and then Lori's going to do inventory for us. So real quick. Okay, we need to share screen. Let me do that first. Real quick items. One of the attachments that was included when we sent out that email is this one, the EMS data collection calendar. I never provided this before, but we have a lot of newer people, so I thought we would include it this time. The highlighted ones are the ones that pertain to the treasurer's office more so. So this just gives you the collections that are out there and the dates that they open and dates that they close, just so that you have that. This can be found on the EMS site, ODE site, but I just thought I would include that for you. The next thing I wanted to bring to your attention is that was included in all of those attachments when we sent that email was this setting estimates versus actual variance. This is not an official step in your closeout. This, for the old timers, this was the classic set bow. But if you read under here, these 2 points, first 2 points, this will take your USAS budgets versus your estimated figures, and it's going to set them to 0. So this is going to prevent reporting variances if you use that. Also, the auditors do not interpret the Ohio statutes, says the appropriation variance must be set to 0, but there are some treasurers who in the past have always done that. So that is why the SSDT came up with this step to do it if you did it in the past and you want to continue to do it. But the SSDT nor the auditors say it is required. And what we're going to start with now is our pre-closeout checklist. So let's go to the PowerPoint. And let's do this. Okay. Here's some things you can do now so that you're not so rushed at the end of the year. And one of the very first steps is closing out all possible purchase orders. And it says, see attached. So let's go to the last handout that I have included. Here's just a little blurb from the SSDT on how to close out your purchases that may be hanging out there that are old that you don't need it. Okay, so clean those up. Now, while you have the chance, if you know there's ones that have been hanging out there for a while, or that you're not going to need any longer. All right, that's step 1. 2, review any old outstanding disbursements. When I reconcile checks at the end of the month, I always look at what's still left hanging out there. Because if something starts to get 2-3 months old, I'll reach out to that vendor and ask them if they've received the check, could they cash it, or if they need a replacement, because I don't like those hanging out there, then it crossing fiscal years, the whole 9 yards. So kind of keep an eye out on your disbursements and how old they're getting. Reach out to those vendors and ask them if they need a replacement check or what's going on. The last thing you can do now is maintenance of effort report. If you go to report manager, it's called SSDT budget summary MOE. And the SSDT just gave us a little blurb in our end review on why it's important and what maintenance of effort is used for. You kind of want to run that report now, get an idea of where you're at. When you do your submissions for the end of the year, this is a big thing. Sometimes ODE, which is now called due, and it will take me forever to call it due. But anyway, we'll reach out to you and say you need to update your maintenance of effort. So if you kind of run this report and take a look at it now, it might help you when you close, then maybe not to get contacted. Okay, on page 4, prepare next year's budget and revenue estimates. You can be working on that now. I have mine prepared and they're sitting there waiting to close out the year and go to the next year. If anybody would like to do a Zoom to work on scenarios for us to help you with that, if you're uncomfortable with that, we'd be glad to. Send us a ticket. We'll schedule a time. You can jump on a Zoom. If anybody would like to come here and get some peace and quiet from your crazy office with the people coming in and the phone ringing and the questions and work on something, let us know. We'll see you in the rooms available. You can come here and sit with us. We can go over the doing your estimates, helping you with your closeout, anything like that. Okay. And the last thing on the list is prepare requisitions for the next fiscal year. I don't know if any of you do future requisitions. You would have to have your July posting period open, not current, but open in order to do future requisitions. You just date it July, even though you're in June. It will sit there. And when you close June and open July, they're now a current requisition. There's no batches to post, old school, none of that. All right, on page 5, and this is, I'm going through the PowerPoint, but the checklist mimics it. And if you're on the checklist and you just want to go down quickly, you don't need screenshots. You can use the checklist, no problem, but it does reference the page number on the PowerPoint of what we're going over if you do need a visual to help you at some step. So on page 5, first thing you want to do is go to core organization and make sure your central office footage, square footage is there. It should be, unless you've moved, that shouldn't change. Unless you moved your central office, that square footage shouldn't change. Used to be required to have the ITC's IRN. That is no longer needed. If our IRN is listed on that screen, you don't need to remove it. It's not going to cause an error. But just so you know, if for some reason it's not listed there, which it probably should because it was required prior, no worries, it's not needed. Okay, page 6. District building profile. This is under periodic building profiles. This is where you're going to review your square footage, your transportation percentage, and your lunchroom percentage. So what needs to happen is when you add the transportation percentage column down, it needs to total 100%. When you add the lunchroom percentage column down, it needs to total 100%. Okay, so you're going to take your lunchroom and say, what percentage of the lunchroom is high school? What percentage of the lunchroom service is your middle school? What percentage is, you're going to break it down, but it must total 100%. Most people don't change this year to year. I'm just telling you, you're supposed to review it and make it accurate. Transportation on.
You could just take an average over the year.
I would take an average of how many students per building you have there. You know what I mean? Yeah. And again, if you haven't moved in buildings, your square footage. Okay, then there is a report that you can run once you fill in all that information to make sure at a glance you have everything where it needs to be. And that reports SSDT district building. I will give you a little tip. I use it from the grid. I go right from the grid when you're under building profiles and I hit this report button. The reason I do that instead of the SSDT district building is because if you hit that report button while you're on the grid, it gives you total. So you'll know if your transportation and lunch is 100. If you run the SSDT building report, it doesn't give you. So just because I want to see at a glance, I would recommend that one. Okay. On page 8, you want to run the SSDT account validation report. That's going to be under your report manager. That's going to let you know if you have any invalid accounts that exist. If you do, you would want to use account change under your utilities menu to change that to make the correction because obviously you have an invalid account and you need to change that before you do your submission at the end of the year. You can run this now, you can run this anytime, it doesn't hurt. Okay. There is, if you look under the notes section here, I will point out this very first bullet point, ODE requires OPU to be entered for specific function object per EMIS guide. Everyone seems to have this error every year. Okay. They're not going to take it away and you're going to probably all just ignore it like you do every year. What they're asking you to do is to make sure if you're using a specific function object, can it be tied to an OPU? If it's a district-wide thing, then you can't tie it to an OPU. This is just a warning and you can't ignore it if indeed that budget line, that function object cannot be tied to a specific OPU. Okay. Every year you all get it. I see the list in the data collector. So again, if you look through and it can't be tied to a specific OPU, ignore it, move on. Last thing I want to bring your attention to on this page is the brief description has been removed. That was that EMIS fund category on your cash screen. You had to always give it an EMIS fund category. That's no longer needed anymore. You don't have to go back and remove that, but it's not required to fill in if you create a new fund. And that's where. You know, these things they made us fill out all the years they don't need. Okay, here's a screenshot of account change. If you would have invalid accounts and you need to change them, that's under utilities, account change. It's a very simple process. You're going to select the fiscal year from the bad account to the good account. Operational units. You can do the SSDT OPU listing report, or you can just go to core OPUs, verify that you have all your OPUs that you are using listed in there under your core menu. You just want to remember the 000 OPU should be your district-wide, your main office, your main office, not the school building. And also, you want to make sure you have a check mark on the central office. Let me see if I have a picture of that. I don't have a picture of that, but I can bring you up one real quick. See the 000? And if you click on that to open it, your central office. All right.
Zero, zero, zero for my district. So I just went in and my central office was. And I also have an 001 that's central office. Is it okay to have two Check my email office.
No, I think you're only supposed to have one, which OP is not your central.
Oh, one. But we also we also have account codes that use O or 000, and we use that as like a district-wide type of.
Okay, then I would not check mark central office on your OOO then. I would check it wherever your central office is tied to that OPU. Usually they're the same. Usually they're the same, but yes. Okay, on page 11, I think this is everybody's favorite scenario. Nobody's favorite, actually. This is a step you can do now if you have the information and you want to go into budgeting and scenarios, get your spreadsheets and put in your next year's proposed amounts. I have here, if you're online with this, if you click the link, it'll take you to the documentation. Also, I have the documentation at the end of your actual checklist, not the PowerPoint, but the actual checklist. It's the very last few pages. So if you want to go off of paper, the instructions on how to do scenarios is at the very end of that. Okay, so all those things can be done ahead of time. Get yourself ready. Okay, now we're going to go on to month end. Sorry, honey. So when you're ready and you have all your information from the bank, go online, get all your checks for the end of the month. You want to enter all the transactions, reconcile all your checks that were cashed in June, and then try to perform your reconciliation bank to the bank. This time of the year is the only time that you need to complete the cash reconciliation in the redesign system. I know a lot of people have spreadsheets that they go and plug in their numbers to ensure that they balance in use. And that is fine. You don't have to use the cash reconciliation in the redesign any other month but June. You need to fill it out for June because when you do your extract to upload to the data collector with all your information, it's going to need that. So if you don't use it any other time, you need to complete it in the redesign for June. Once you have that done, you can run your cash summary and your financial detail to compare the totals. When you run your financial detail, you want to run it for the month specifically. Then your totals should match to your cash summary. So if you match the bank, your summary and your detail match, your balance. Okay, you can move on. When you close June and open July, the monthly report bundles will run and go to your file archives for you. But if you have any specific reports that you run besides the ones that are already in the bundle, now would be your time to run them. If you send anything out to student advisors or things like that, some people have that set up to be automatically emailed to them when they close for the month. Some people don't. So if you don't, you might want to run those reports now. And if you don't have it automatically sent up to email out, I suggest looking into that because it makes your life easier. Then you don't waste the time running the reports and sending them to. Then for fiscal year. Again, just make sure that you put that cash reconciliation in under periodic cash reconciliation, your numbers, fill that out. Federal assistance summary and details no longer required. Okay, they decided that they did not need that information. So the SSDT removed it from USPS. But then they got a lot of feedback from ITCs because treasurers were telling ITC and we were passing it along that you guys use that for your federal schedule. So the SFCT put the summary and the T-tail back into USPS, but it's no longer required. So if you don't use it for anything else other than to normally close, you don't have to complete that anymore. But if you need it for your federal schedules, then I would go ahead and continue to use it. So I have here, you want to do your summary before you do your detail. If you try and do detail first, it will give you an error. So if you're going to complete these, if you feel you need them, complete your summary first, and it's as easy as going in and saying, have you met, is your assistance over the threshold, that kind of thing. Then you can go on to your detail. You within the detail, they changed none of the options. It's still there and it's still the same. You can clone, get your CFDA numbers, and do all the same things that you had done in the past. But again, if you were just doing it because you had to, you don't have to anymore. Civil proceedings, if you have any, you want to go in and complete that at this time. Okay, on page 18. This is important. So everybody, are you listening? This is important. Before you can get the extract file out of redesign and upload it to the data collector, you need to go into system configuration. When you go there, there's going to be a drop down of options like you see here. You're going to click on EMIS SOAP service configuration. When you do that, you'll see this box. You want to put in the fiscal year you're closing. It may say last year because you don't touch this until the very next year again. So you can do that right now. If you have the computer in front of you, you can do this right now. You're telling the system that you want it to collect all the information for fiscal year 24. If you leave that 23, if you don't do this step and you grab your extract and upload it to the data collector and send it off to ODE, they're not going to get 2024 information. They're going to get 2023. Okay. Once you've changed that year, now you can go get your EMIS. Okay. What you'll do, it's very simple. You know, I can show you. Okay. Extracts. EMIS. That should be your IRN. That should be your organization name. You will make sure you select 2024. I'm in a test demo here, 2024. So that's why you don't see it in the dropdown. You'll select 2024, generate extract. Save that file on your computer wherever you can find it so that you can then go to the data collector and upload it. When you do the extract file, you may get a warning that you didn't complete your cash reconciliation, or if you have no civil proceedings, it sees it blank. Okay, the cash reconciliation can, we need that. But if you don't have any civil proceedings, it's just giving you a, hey, did you miss this step or you really don't have it? And if you don't have any, you can ignore it and move on. I have here, once you get that file, that needs to be uploaded to the data collector. I know some people are in a hurry to close and they just let that file sit on their computer and move on with the checklist. I personally do not recommend that. I would take the few minutes right then and there when you're at this step to take that file and upload it to the data collector. Because if you have errors, you have an opportunity to go back into your 2024 files, correct it, and grab a new file and upload, and be right the very first time. Instead of closing out your books, moving on to 2025, and then you upload that, and now you have to open up 2024 again, go back, fix whatever was wrong, get a new file, upload it. You're going to have new reports because depending on what the error was. So I highly suggest taking that few minutes and uploading it to the data collector when you hit this spot. I have in the checklist, not the PowerPoint, but in the checklist on page 4 are the step-by-step instructions on how to get that file into the data collector. So this checklist has everything on it you need. You don't have to go to another link, another checklist, anything else. It's on page 4 if you're unfamiliar with uploading to the data collector. Once you've done that and you don't have any errors, you can manually run any year-end reports. Again, when you close, year-end reports are in the bundle and we'll go to file archives. But if you have any year-end reports that you manually run, now would be the time to do those. You want to wait until the bundle is complete before changing your current posting period. So what I do is when I'm closing out, and we'll get down to there. What I do when I'm closing out is I go into my posting periods and we'll be in June, okay? And I will close June. Then I will go into utilities job schedule. And when I go there, you're going to see the monthly and yearly reports and they will say running. The status will be running. That's when you go on the budgetary side and have your cup of coffee or a restroom break or whatever. Let those all run. Okay. Then when you see that those are complete, then you can go back to your posting periods. And if you haven't already created July for future POs, then you're going to want to create July. It'll open it and make it current then. You can also go look under utilities file archives to see all your bundles. And that's just what page 21 is saying. Let those run before you then go make July current. July can be open, but don't make it current till those bundles finish. Okay. And here is a report or a screenshot when you go to job schedule. It'll say monthly, and then there'll be one that will say fiscal year too, and they'll say completed. They'll say running when they're running, and then they'll say completed when they're done. And that's then you know you can make July. And if you go to the file archives to view your report, you're going to see 2 tabs, your monthly and your fiscal year end. Click on one of the tabs and then click on the word under the description. A side box will pop up and there will be all your reports. Okay. Once you're closed for June and into July, you're going to want to go to your pending transactions because payroll's probably already ran July pay. Okay. When they send that over to USPS, it sits in pending transactions. It hurts nothing. It's just a little holding place to hold any July transactions you have while you're still in June. So now that you're in July, payrolls push their payroll over to USPS. You want to go to pending transactions and go post. That's just a little reminder. AOS extract reports. There are certain reports that AOS needs. Now these reports, the system is set up to know when you're in July to run these reports based on June. It's smart enough to know that, okay? And these are the reports that they need. So if you go to the next page, 27, these reports I have scheduled for you. I went into everybody's district and I did a cron job to run these reports on August 17th. I took a stab and said, everybody is probably going to be closed for budgetary by August 17th. Okay, so I have scheduled these reports to run for you. So you don't need to run them. Okay, they are already scheduled. If you as the treasurer would like to verify that you see that job schedule, you can go to utilities, job scheduler, and look for district audit jobs. Okay. That will be your little safeguard. Yeah, Missy didn't miss my district. Okay. If something would happen and you're not closed by August 17th, you need to let us know so that we can change our contract. See how good I was to you guys. Anyway, GAT conversion. If any of you use WebGAT, now would be the time to go get that extract file out of the system and upload it to the WebGAP site. Okay, and it's as simple as going to extracts, WebGAP, telling it the fiscal year, saving it to your computer, and then log into WebGAP and upload it.
Something the state made up for you to cause more work. Just
If you, I don't know, how do I want to say this? Districts are supposed to report to GAP. Okay, you're all supposed to be reporting to GAP. You don't have to use WebGAP to do it. It's just a way to do it. Okay. So if you have a different system set up, that's fine. If you've never done it in the past, my guess is they're getting what they need through an alternative. Because if not, you'd hear about it. Okay, last reminder, if you didn't have time to do your scenarios and you're closed out, now you got to get them in there, or else you have no budgets for the year. Just a reminder to do that. Okay. Again, documentation for scenarios at the very end of this fiscal year and checklist if you need directions. Question? No questions? Wow, you guys were easy. Huh? No. You didn't tell me. See, you had it ready. You didn't tell me I'd have had it. Okay. We're gonna have to change the. Okay, we're switching over to.
give us a minute.
To inventory.
I'm gonna do the year end.
Make sure you speak up.
Yeah, and send out all of the documentation
finally, it's publicized. Okay, so when you're in your grid items, you want to make sure that the status is active and whatever your cost criteria is for your district. And all of those items should say true, that they're capitalized. If you have any like this that say they're false but meet your criteria, those are the ones you need to figure out why they are that way. This is a lot of like detail work, kind of cleaning up your inventory that's in the beginning of this document. But one of the biggest things before you start balancing your reports is to know that the account that you purchased your items through, that fund is not necessarily the same as the fund, its usage, what it's actually being used for. If you notice in the screen, it says that the acquisition account, well, this one says it's 507. So it was purchased through a 507 fund, but it's being used in a general fund situation. So when you're balancing your GAAP and non-GAAP reports, this is the biggest thing to key on, is what fund it is using. Because when you're balancing your reports, the system is looking to this. And this was explained in the training that Missy had done earlier. So the original cost of an item is what it was purchased for. Your life to date depreciation. A lot of people have fixed assets that they change and do additional work to. Biggest one I can think of would be like landscaping. If you had a ton of landscaping that you're capitalizing and you're adding it to your property, or can't even think of what else. Those items are going to depreciate over the rest of that item's life. So if you improved a building and added $10,000 to its value, and it's a 20-year life, but 10 of it has been already depreciated, the additional monies that you added to the cost of that item are going to depreciate over the rest of the life of the item. Unless you don't want it to do that. And if you don't want it to do that, the system, you go into the individual item and tell it to depreciate. And what it's going to do is it's going to take your original life and your new adjusted cost and give you a completely new depreciation for the 20 years that it had. So if you go into an item and tell it to depreciate, you've got to intentionally want to be doing that. Otherwise, you just want it to depreciate the new purchases over the rest of that life. The only thing I can think of that would happen to you would be you had a new building and you failed to capitalize like the last payment on your engineering firm. You forgot to put that in. And it's 2 years after you started depreciating. However, that engineering cost should have been depreciating all along from the beginning. In that situation, you are going to want to tell it to re-depreciate that item and give you a new depreciation. Does that make sense? And you're going to want to do that before you go through all your closing.
Ask the question, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm still stuck on the last slide with the acquisition fund and the actual usage fund. This is the first I've ever heard of this, and I haven't kept up on inventory that much since I became treasurer, but I was just asking, and like, I think we always just keep it the same. Does anybody change?
Change what?
if you
Like,
have
so
a
ESSER,
purchase
so
fund.
507, it was bought with ESSER funds. Should it be different? Should it be a general fund usage or?
Where are
Has
you,
anybody kept
where
it?
are you using? Where are you
I guess,
using?
I guess I'm not understanding. So with ESSER funds, I mean, have we replaced boilers, we've replaced chillers, we've replaced roofs, we've replaced. So. Those would, I guess, actually would have been normally bought by general funds, so are you saying if we wouldn't have had that federal fund and it would have been purchased with general fund, we should have?
The
What if
fund,
you don't, I mean,
the fund that is listed.
Here.
Do you have a screenshot of it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is your acquisition
this is where
information.
you actually purchased it.
right,
This is where you're using it. That's, yeah, that's the way it should be in your system.
is it always been like that?
This,
I mean,
yeah. This is why a lot of the reports, when people have tried to balance the inventory report with gap reports. This is why they're different, because for you, they wouldn't be. Because you're using whatever your purchase fund is, that's what you're using as your
yeah,
fund.
that's what, I guess that's what I was asking them, like.
They
do
wouldn't-
this? Do we ever, and we usually just keep those the same. So that's why I was just asking, anybody do it differently?
Anything that was brought over from, that was converted. Probably not gonna have a purchase fund. They may not have come over with a purchase fund. Cause unless you created the acquisition. Do you have, I don't know, I've not read your reports, but,
I guess inventories never came up in my office, so I'm just like, I guess I. just
If they've never
understand.
addressed that with you,
Uh-uh.
I'll be honest with you, I don't know that the auditors worry so much about where it's being used. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I guess.
That's how the system is set up to work. If your auditors are not concerned about where it's being used versus where it's been purchased, then I would not worry about it if I were you. Or you could ask them, you know, next time that they're in.
Has any other treasurer worried about that?
Okay. I've never done inventory, and I'm totally lost right now.
Okay, so.
I just started in December and I don't even know when to do inventory.
I mean, I did inventory when I did.
But-
Budgetary stuff, but that was in the old system and I kind of handed that off 6 years ago and never looked at it again. Inventory is not one of my favorite things, but.
Mine either.
That's why I was.
Mine either.
So that's why I was like, should we be doing this or are we okay just to do status quo?
I'm afraid for your situation, if you change it now,
So let's stay status quo.
yeah, I would not change it.
Okay.
If your auditors,
Ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Right,
Right.
that's kind of where I was like, wait a minute, okay, thank you.
you're welcome. So when you run your gap reports. Okay. Gap reports. Fixed assets by source. Fixed assets by function and source. Schedule of change in fixed assets and schedule of change in depreciation. Those are gap reports. When you run your gap reports, the gap reports. If the item does not meet the capitalization criteria. If it has a status of disposed, inactive, or old tag item. Or it is coded as an operating lease. It will not show on your gap reports. And I believe everyone here is using gap.
not everyone.
I think everyone here, oh, they're not. Ours is. Oh, Oh, you're not Gab. Oh, that's right. You're the one that's not Gab. Yeah. Man, if she was sitting in your seat, I'd be like, whoops, that's right. She chooses not to. Yeah, so you only have non-GAAP reporting. So, here's what I'm gonna tell you. The system, at the end of the year, when you close your inventory, it's gonna kick off a bundle of reports. A lot of them. And it's going to send them to you via email. If the email is too big, it won't go. That is still a problem. So running these reports that are listed here and in the checklist and running them in all the formats it says to run them is imperative if you have a lot of reports, a lot of items in your inventory. Because when that year-end bundle kicks off, you're not gonna get it.
So it doesn't have a file archive. with
It
the other
does not.
systems.
Inventory does not, because inventory went into place and there was not a document store. The document store has not been completed. So it was kind of a limbo kind of setup. It wasn't quite, they didn't do the archiving, file archiving with it because they were expecting to send them out via email or have the document store ready. The document store is still not ready. So running these reports and saving them is imperative because once the document store is completed, there will be a function of it that you can take those reports and put them in your file. So if you don't run them, you don't have them. So for historical purposes, you want to run all of these reports. Which is the biggest thing to closing your year. Nothing has changed this year that wasn't around last year in regards to running these reports. So, when you run the schedules of changes in your fixed assets, the reports are going to give you just those changes. And any asset that you've made a change to is going to show up in the respective column for what you did with them. If you have it, depreciation is the last thing that happens when you close the books. It creates depreciation, but these reports run as if depreciation has been done. Kind of like kooky to me because you've not told it to depreciate, but somehow when you run the reports, it knows what your depreciation is going to be. So when you're looking at these reports and balancing them, keep that in mind. That is your current year depreciation. The GAAP reports, these three reports, the fixed asset by function and class, fixed asset by source, and the change of fixed asset report are based on all original costs on these reports should be the same. If they're different, that's a problem, but they should all be the same. And this is an example of how this report balances out. And if you follow the arrows, you'll see when you run these reports, yours should balance the same way. It's taking your grand total of fixed assets and it's showing you how on each type of report it balances. And yours should all balance too. But if they don't, again, that's a problem. This is your schedule of change and depreciation by class. And these all they all key back to the reports. So changes in depreciation of capital assets, during the fiscal year are all the changes that have occurred from the beginning of your school year to the end. And then your non-GAAP assets. Your non-GAAP reports, again, you want to run them all, not just one, don't pick and choose, run all of them and save them. Book value reports, same way, you want to generate all 4 versions of it. And when you, the other report is your audit report. You want to run that as an official version. That's gonna be huge. It's going to be big, because anything that you've done to your fixed asset is going to be tracked in that report. And when the auditors come in and they want to know why certain things are different, that report's going to have every change that was made. So you want to run it by the official version. When you close your year and at the year end and you close, it's going to create the next fiscal year for you. Some auditors, we've been told, have asked for districts to leave their inventory open until they're finished. So like if they come in and they note that there's changes or they want you to change the way you're doing something, they can tell you and you can go ahead and make that change and then close. Some of them have asked for it to stay open at long periods of time. I don't know why. But some of them have. Now you can open up the next fiscal year and continue to operate in the next fiscal year. However, when you run your reports, they will not be accurate because the beginning balances will not be updated. So we're in June and the auditors don't come in until, I don't know, August. They tell you leave your inventory up. Yeah, they tell you leave your inventory open. Well, you have budgetary wants to bring over your fixed assets for the current 25 year. You can allow that to happen as long as fiscal year 25 is open. But if you run a report, it's not going to be accurate. You just have to be aware of that the beginning depreciation is not correct because it's not, fiscal year 24 hasn't been closed. Anybody have any questions? Cool. I got 2 minutes.
You're done?
I'm done. Listen, honestly, if you have any questions after the fact, or when you're in the middle of doing your inventory, why this doesn't work, why this doesn't add up, where are my assets?
Ask Lori.
Please put a tick in it, because it is kind of like quirky a little bit, I guess, but please just ask. Will help.
Can we put a ticket
I was
and
gonna
come
say-
up here and do it with you?
Yes,
That's what,
you can do whatever you want.
that's what we have open labs. If you want to come up here and sit and we'll come over here with you, we still have to take tickets from the districts too. But if you want to sit here and work on something that you're not sure about, or like I said, if you just need to get out of the office because it's crazy loud and you want some place to sit and quiet, we'll come sit over here with you and get lunch and,
Of
course. But yeah, just let us know and we'll see if the room's available and you can come sit. Anyone.
There is something I wanted to tell you. I know you're tired of hearing from me. Okay. You can do payroll next time then. I put a ticket into SSDT. There was that question about the W-2s being emailed, if that was a possibility. It is not at this time, but they have created a feedback ticket to add that as a enhancement. So my suggestion is if it's something you are interested in, send a ticket to F staff telling us that, because every time we tell them, Harrison Hills would like to see this, Claymont would like to see this. They're upping the number of times requested. And obviously, the one thing that's requested the most will be addressed first. So if that's something you're interested in, send a ticket to us and we will add that and get it, hopefully get it added for this year. So just wanted to let you know. Okay.
While you're up there, Nan has requested, do we have an update on ESS?
Okay, ESS, this is where we're at with that. We don't know. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We have been, we don't have any release dates yet, so to speak. We are at a point that we could possibly create the shelves of your ESS, but they have not come up with a way for us to export the information from kiosk to import into ESS. I mean, I know they're working on it and they're working out bugs and such as, but until they let us know that that's an option for us to start rolling on.
SSDT is still going with a July release date though. for
Yeah.
Production, so that we could start.
Yeah.
getting people rolled in,
But in the
but it's not
meantime,
totally feasible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but in the
Re-
meantime, you operate status quo. If you would tell your people to log in to kiosk, get
New
their,
users.
if you
Do it.
if that's what you would normally do, continue to do it.
Mhm.
Don't stop
Using.
anything that you've done in the past, continue to do it until this ESS gets rolled out.
When do you see that happening? Because the
July.
last thing we really want to do is when all the staff comes back in
Uh-huh.
August. We wanted to do it in July to do with our classified.
Yeah.
Let me just tell you.
And we really didn't want to do it at the end of June, beginning of July.
And I had a
For
talk
obvious
with her, doesn't
reasons.
want to do it in July because she has all her staff out. She wants to do one-time training with her people when they all come back. So everybody's different and that's good for us.
Or we can wait till next year. and do that.
But no,
No,
because
it's going away.
it's going away at the end of September. Yeah,
Right.
but that's good for us that everybody has a different feel of when they want to do it. Because that gives us, if every one of you said, I want to go August 1st, that would be a lot for us to try and convert everybody. So that's good. Everyone has a different opinion of it. So
them to let us know
as soon, well, as soon as it's available, we're gonna send out an email letting you know that it's available. And we're gonna ask, who would like to go right now?
Everybody will step back from the line.
And Bobby, I expect you to be the first
I'll be
one to
the first.
reply.
We'll put you on
It
the
was
list
kind of
now.
my suggestion too, after we had that training.
So,
So I had told my staff to stop because I thought this was going to be, so I said, hold off on putting stuff in, future stuff into kiosk.
Yeah.
Past, I think I said July 1st, didn't I?
well,
For July and August, we really only have to worry about.
Because, right, anybody.
anything that's
But
in the
how about-
kiosk
okay,
is
so-
going to come out of kiosk and go into the ESS.
Even if a teacher would have put in for November.
That's
and it
our
said-
understanding.
Okay,
Yes.
so those ones are.
So
fine.
what they're thinking is continue to use the kiosk like you normally would, because then when we export that information out and
should
import it in,
automatically go.
just like when you converted in the USAS and payroll,
Okay.
everything that was there now appeared in the redesign. So they're trying to make that same process happen.
I guess I just, for some reason, when we did that Zoom, wasn't it a Zoom or something we did? I got out of that we were supposed to tell them to stop or something, because I sent an email right away saying, don't put in.
Well, they can, because whatever's in there is going to go into the ESS.
Because I think at that point, they didn't know if they could export and import or something, or there was something.
There was a time where they weren't sure.
Okay.
There was a time they weren't sure.
That's probably what.
Let them know I sent out the email with the STRS thing. Oh. For those of you on Zoom, I just emailed out that STRS fact sheet on what qualifies for STRS. So you probably all got it too, the payroll people, but I want to let you know that has been sent out as well.
Well, that's that thing you printed this morning.
Yeah.
There's a number right at the bottom of that, just an FYI, that you can call STRS. They were nice enough to put their phone number on the bottom.
I just was trying to help her use it best I can.
Okay.
Anything else? Anybody have any questions? I know there's a couple of you guys staying over for us, so.
Okay, you guys are free to go whenever you would like,
There you go.
unless you want to just sit around and BS.